You ever feel like you're holding back a flood? This episode is your permission to let it out. We're talking about crying, from silent tears in the kitchen to full-on snotty sobs that reset your soul. Crying helps our bodies and minds release what we can't carry anymore, and the positive effects are backed by science. So this one's for anyone who's ever said, "I'm fine," when they weren't. For the ones holding back tears because they were told to toughen up. We'll stop being tough, start being human, and start healing. Hey friends, welcome back, or maybe if this is your very first episode. Either way, I'm really glad you're here. You found your way into this space, and that says something. It says that you're looking for growth, you're looking for peace, or maybe you're just looking for a moment of realness in the middle of a busy life. Or maybe you just need a good cry, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about crying. Yes, crying. Tears, that lump in your throat, that flood that comes when you just can't hold it in anymore. And I want to say something right at the top. Crying is not weakness. Crying can feel like such a relief. It can be so very healing. And crying is very human. Whether it's over a breakup, burnout, loss, frustration, or even those random late-night cries that come out of nowhere, crying is more than okay. It's necessary. So today we're going to talk about why crying is good for us, how it helps regulate emotions, the science behind it, and why it's especially important to normalize this for everyone, all genders, all ages, all backgrounds. So first, let's start with the basics. What actually happens when we cry? Well, there's three main types of tears. Basal tears, those are the ones that just keep your eyes lubricated all day. Reflex tears, like the ones that come from when you're cutting onions or if dust gets in your eyes. And emotional tears, and that's what we're really going to focus on today. Interestingly, while other animals can produce basal and reflex tears, they don't produce emotional tears. They may feel emotions, but they don't use tears like we do. Just a little random trivia for you, if that helps. But back to us. When we cry emotional tears, our bodies are actually releasing stress hormones like cortisol through our tears. Scientists have found that emotional tears contain different chemicals than any other types of tears. They literally carry stress out of our bodies. And I know many people who cry when they're angry, myself included. And it's annoying as heck, especially as a woman, because it feels like we're showing ourselves as timid little women. But I swear, if I'm angry enough, that anger just spurts out my eyeballs. And whether it's anger or sadness, it's as if our bodies were designed to process emotion through this physical release. It's not just a psychological thing, it's biological. Crying actually helps your body reset. It can calm your nervous system, lower your blood pressure, reduce levels of anger or frustration, and see, my anger really does spurt out my eyes, or trigger the release of endorphins, our body's natural painkillers. So the next time you cry, know that your body is not working against you, but it's in fact working for you and helping you regulate yourself both physically and emotionally. I say my anger tears are ensuring I stay sane and out of jail. Just kidding. Well, maybe a little. And you know that feeling after a good cry? Not during, because during it can feel messy and overwhelming, but afterward. That moment where your shoulders drop, your breath slows down, your brain stops spinning quite as fast. That's the emotional reset. That's your nervous system returning to center. Thinking of crying like an emotional exhale. We carry so much tension, so many held back emotions. We say, "I'm fine," when we're not. We smile, we nod, we carry on, we check the boxes. And meanwhile, our emotional inbox is overflowing. And that's why sometimes we just feel the need for a good cry. It's not out of sadness or anger. It's just that we've dealt with so many things and moved through so many other emotions, and for what seems to be no reason at all, we just feel the need to release. And even though we don't consciously know why, eventually the body says, "We've got to process this. We can't hold this all in." And then the tears come. And it could be one small trigger, one small item, and you wonder, why the heck am I crying over that? But when you need a good cry because you haven't had one in a while, it's not usually that thing that is the cause. This podcast theme actually came up because of a conversation I recently had with someone where they told me where she was making a dish for a party and her husband came into the kitchen and asked, "Well, why are you making it so early already?" And she said she just burst into tears with that weird hyperventilating breathing talk, and she surprised herself at her response. And of course, it wasn't what he said or how he said it. It wasn't that she was stressed from making this dish. It was all the things that she'd been holding in all week, from stress at work, from some physical stuff, maybe from little spats here and there, but they all boiled over at that one moment. And as she was telling me this, she said how much better she felt. And we all started chatting about how, if you haven't cried in a while, sometimes a good cry for no reason just feels good. And thus, this episode was born. So even though it can feel raw or uncomfortable and completely out of the blue, it's what you needed, and it's giving you relief physically and mentally. So now let's talk about something especially important, because this is where the stigma starts to creep in. Somewhere along the line, many of us were taught that crying was something to be ashamed of, that it was a sign of weakness, and you should only do it in extreme situations like a death, especially if you're a man, especially if you want to be seen as strong, capable, and tough. We hear things like, "Man up," "Boys don't cry," "Stop being so emotional," and "Will you just get your act together?" But I want to say this loud and clear. Tears do not make you weak. Tears make you human. Whether you identify as male, female, non-binary, or anything in between, crying is part of the human experience. Suppressing emotions isn't strength, it's stress storage, and that is never healthy. Unprocessed emotions don't just disappear, they get buried, and then they turn into anxiety, insomnia, chronic tension, burnout, and many times end up in various illnesses from headaches to stomach issues to autoimmune diseases. We've got to stop shaming people, especially men, for crying. Because the truth is, some of the strongest people you know have cried. In silence, in private, behind closed doors. But we need more spaces where people of all genders, of all ages, can express grief, frustration, overwhelm, sadness, and even joy without shame. And let's remember and remind ourselves that not all crying is from sadness, depression, or any other perceived negative emotion. And I say perceived because feelings are all necessary, even if they don't feel great. Everything needs to be processed in some way to be able to move forward. But again, crying can be tied to a happiness, of course. Ever cried during a beautiful moment, a movie, a wedding, or a song? That's because crying is also connected to a sense of being emotionally moved, no matter which direction you are moved. Tears are a sign that something inside us is shifting, that we're connecting deeply to an experience, a memory, a moment of beauty or empathy. In those moments, we're not falling apart. We're falling into presence. Tears connect us to the truth of what matters, and isn't that beautiful? So, if you have a hard time crying or feel that you shouldn't allow yourself this release, think about this. What's the story you were told about crying? Did you grow up in a household where crying wasn't allowed? Where maybe it made people feel uncomfortable? Where you were told to suck it up or be tough? Or maybe you were someone who cried easily, and maybe you were made to feel that something was wrong with you, that you were overly sensitive, but you're not. So many of us carry those stories. They are our internal history and experiences, and they shape how we show up. We push emotions down. We say, "I don't have time to cry," or "I'll fall apart if I start crying," or "Crying doesn't change anything." And no, crying won't change what is happening or what may be going on or how you're feeling in the moment, but it can change how you process what's going on. It can give you some relief to feel you can handle and heal from what's going on. You don't fall apart from crying, but you can most certainly fall apart and crumble internally from not crying, from holding on to feelings that need to be released, that can create poison in your mind and body. So if you're holding something right now, a grief you haven't named, a disappointment you've swallowed, a frustration that's simmering, maybe a fear that you haven't said out loud. Let it come up. Let it rise. Let the tears fall if they need to. And let it keep coming even if it turns into one of those sobbing, snotty messes. It doesn't make you dramatic. It doesn't make you weak. But it could make you feel lighter and clearer. And maybe you will feel the release and let go of whatever it is that you need to let go of. And now, if crying doesn't come easily to you, here's a few ways to create space for it, safely, intentionally, and gently. First, watch or listen to something that moves you. Maybe a song that brings out a memory, a story that opens your heart. There's some really good movies out there where the imagery, the story, and the emotional movement of it can get you started, and then you can let the rest of your feelings fall in line. Maybe write a letter that you never sent. Say the things that you haven't been able to say to someone you've wanted to, you've been meaning to, or even a letter to yourself to forgive yourself or be able to move past some feelings that you need to move through. Often tears can come through that type of writing. Maybe talk it out. Sometimes naming the feelings out loud or just sharing what you're going through with a friend, a coach, a therapist, that can help you feel a bit of release and allow you to feel safe enough to let the floodgates go. And create safe space. If you need to be alone, then set that time aside. Put on some soft lighting, wrap yourself in a blanket, and let the tears come without judgment. But don't stop those tears. When they show up, just let them flow. And say to yourself, this is okay. This is me healing. This is me releasing something that I don't need to hold on to anymore. So let's reinforce and normalize that you deserve to feel whatever you are feeling. You deserve to express what's real, and your feelings are always real. And if you feel the need to cry, it's okay. Just do that, and you don't need to explain or apologize. And if the crying is the language your body uses to release, then let it speak. And if you've been holding back tears, well, maybe now is the time to let them fall. With love, with permission, with grace and kindness towards yourself. You're not in this alone. We're all navigating life's highs and lows, and sometimes a good cry is the bridge between holding it all together and finally letting it go. You're not supposed to be without these emotions. You're not made of stone. You're made of heart, of soul, of energy, of emotion, and light. And sometimes that heart needs to overflow to clean out and make space for whatever else you need to let in. So if today's episode stirred something in your heart, I want to invite you to reflect on your last good cry. What brought it on? What did it release? And if you haven't had one in a while, maybe reflect on if you need one. And even if you don't want anyone else to know, that's okay. Don't feel ashamed, but cry in the shower if you need to. And we all know someone who's been holding too much in, so maybe send this to at least one other person who needs to get some release, to feel that release. And maybe sharing this will be what they need to hear that it's okay. And if you're willing to share, comment how you felt after your last good cry. You don't need to share what it was, but sharing how you felt can help others feel okay to let themselves release. Remember, sometimes we go through stuff so we can shine the light for others to show the way through. And if you're not ready to do anything other than to listen today, that's okay too. Remember, this is your journey, and just listening is a step forward to your becoming, to your growth. So until next time, give yourself permission and grace to feel, permission to release. Give yourself the gift of those wonderful releasing tears so that you can heal and find more peace, little by little and piece by piece. This podcast is based on my own life experiences. I'm not a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any other licensed medical professional. Please share this podcast with anyone you think needs to hear this so that we all move forward, little by little and piece by piece. And thank you, Purple Planet, for sharing your music.